Hello, second violins. Nice to see everybody, in a manner of speaking. I'm sorry that we couldn't have our regular sectionals last week. You know how it is with COVID these days. If one person gets the sniffles, you gotta make sure you stay isolated until you find out definitively that it isn't the pandemic. But anyways, what I wanted to do, the purpose of this video, and I'll try and keep the preamble as short as possible, but what I would like for this is to function as kind of a tutorial video. This contrasts a little bit from what we did for the previous concert. If you remember for that, I basically played the whole piece through one step at a time for demonstration purposes. And we'll do a little bit of that, but I want this video to function a little bit more like our traditional sectionals, where we would talk about things, play things, discuss things in the context of how we'll be doing it in rehearsals and in the concert, involving you as well. So just as in the sectionals you would have your instrument and we would rehearse a couple of things, I want to do the same kind of thing here. So if you don't already, I encourage you to get your violin out. It will still be educational and perhaps worthwhile if you don't have it, but I want to make it as beneficial as possible for us to prepare this very difficult repertoire for rehearsals, since we don't have very many. Anyways, like I said, if you feel that it would be in your best interest to have your violin with you, I will tailor the rest of the video to that end. So what I would like to do is I want to take a look at 3 of the 4 pieces that we have. In the order that we'll cover them, we have the Rossini, so the Thieving Magpie, the Ragazza Ladra Overture. We'll then go to look at the Ravel, so Bolero, and then finally we'll go look at the Mussorgsky, Pictures at an Exhibition. So the Rossini is going to be the one that we start with, and it's probably the most difficult one, just for the sheer speed of it, among other things. And there's some things that we'll talk about as well stylistically. So right from the beginning, we talked a little bit about this in rehearsal, but I want to emphasize the idea that this is a very martial, militant, march-like quality. So everything is very clipped and short. The only time you would be sustaining anything at all is when you have slurs, half notes into quarter notes, that kind of thing. Otherwise, nothing is legato, nothing is connected. Here's an example. So, very, very clipped like that, especially the quarter notes. I know it's not implicitly written this way, or explicitly anyways. The thing is, it's in the style. This is sort of Italian opera overture style type thing. It's very influenced by the idea of the military march. And so we want to play it in that style. So what I would like to do to sort of warm things up is I want to play some of this through together, but we'll do it under. And because of its march-like heritage, it's done in one tempo. There's no flexibility here yet, no starting and stopping, no speeding up, slowing down. It is simply in a straight line, the way a march normally would be done. So normally it would be about dum 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 da. So I would say in the neighborhood of 106 if I had my metronome handy. Let's not do that. Let's do it closer to 80. So and one of the reasons why I want the metronome involved right away is because of areas like measure 10 on the second line. This is a very important distinction that Rossini writes here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. This juxtaposition of 16th notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and triplets, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's a subtle difference, but when done properly, it's very, very neat. And you can tell by his writing that he does want to emphasize this, because in the music, he has the violins do it first, da 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 ya da 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 da, and then he has the clarinets do it, da 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 da. Then he has the poor lone bassoon doing it. That's hard for them, by the way. Double reed instruments have trouble with that. But because he repeats it so many times, he places great importance. And because we have it the first time, we want to introduce it right. So I'll have the metronome going in the background, as it were, and I want to try from the beginning up to at least measure 11, so where that section ends. I'll give us 1, 2, 3, and then we're in. All right. 1, 2, 3. going to do that again. A couple of helpful hints there. And I'm going to be, if by the time you have this recording and you don't already have it, soon there will be some fingers and things submitted. I will have my photocopies handed out. But a couple of helpful fingerings that will help you. When we have these trills here between the B flat and, B and the C, and then A flat, B, you could do, that's going to be a little bit hard though. So what I do is I start the first note in with the second finger, and then I trill between 2 and 3. And then I go 1, 1. That way I start in half position, and then I can move immediately up into a higher position so that I can do the trill and not have to go, and it sounds too jazzy. It's a little too Gershwin for this concert. So you don't have to do that, but that's my suggestion. Let's try the same thing again. So our entry at the beginning, and we'll stop at around measure 11. All right, 1, 2, and 3. This goes and repeats itself until you have rehearsal A. Now, again, unlike the sectionals where we have lots of time, I want to make this video as short as possible. It'll still be long. Sorry, you've probably seen the time index. But eventually it's going to be faster than that. We're doing it at 80 for now, for the purpose of this rehearsal, but in performance, it'll likely be much faster. So let's try now the pickup to rehearsal A. And when you have those double dotted figures, make sure that the first note is longer, as in like that, and then delay the coming of the second note, the 32nd note, until the very last instance, like this. Ta-ta, 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 as opposed to ta-ta, ta-ta, ta-ta. It's very important that this be very pointy. Anyways, enough of me talking. Let's try from the pickup to rehearsal A. Da-da-da-da-yum, dum, da-da. All right, here we go. 1, 2, and 3. And then that's all repeated material, so good. All right, now, last unique section here, let's try pick up into rehearsal B. One little detail to notice, the trill just before rehearsal B is a C natural. There's a trill and a tiny little cutoff natural there, so low 2 in the trill. As opposed to before where it was. So just, be aware of those little details. That's an easy one to miss. Okay, pick up into rehearsal B. 1, 2, and 3. And of course there you would just pick a note inside outside divisi. It's not super important there, but good. All right, now after that, when you get to measure 51, you get that little snare drum solo like you did at the beginning. But the difference here is the tempo immediately picks up like crazy. I would say it's probably no slower than about 172. And so on like that. Whether we do it that fast or not, I don't know, but let's not do it that way right now. What my suggestion is, again, is similar to the fingering at the beginning. Try not to do it 1, 1, 1, 2. That's going to be just asking for it. Instead, 2, 1, 2, 3. So half position. thankfully it's all just the same the entire way through. But that's my suggestion for you, is 2, 1, 2, 3. That's going to be the easiest way to get that up to speed. Good. Moving on into the allegro. The first violins are the ones that get the fun part. You get what is arguably the more critical part, the cha-chas. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We don't need to rehearse this, of course, but what I do in sections like this, especially if it's just repeated notes over and over again, I mark out in my music somewhere where the notes change. For example, the first 4 measures are just G and B, and then after that it goes to A and B. It's very easy to miss that change. Sometimes I mark in the changes just with a finger number or a little circle or something. It helps me in performance. Anyways, we don't really do anything technically challenging until we get to just before rehearsal B. Now that last one there can be very, very tricky with this triple string crossing. What I suggest, again, this is optional, but I find it easier, instead of trying to do something like 2, 4, 2, 1, 2, 4, 1, I go into second position and play it as an arpeggio. 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 3, 1. So 1, 3, 1, 4. To me, I get better clarity and it allows me to play it faster without stressing out as much. Again, this is optional, but I find it much easier than doing the string crossings. Let's try the pickup to, actually let's try right on 2 before B, and let's do it this fast. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. I'll even get the metronome going. Ya da da dee da da da. All right. So we'll start right on 2 before B. And I need it to be in 3, 4. There we go. Here we go. 1, 2, into 3. Good. Okay, just so that we have that. All right, and then the next part again is not too difficult. Just all in first position. My suggestion here is exactly what they say in the part. Do it in third position. 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4. And then back to first position. So in other words. And then first. Well, we get to go jum, 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 jum. Okay, good. There's nothing terribly of consequence. Before C, you stop doing the cha-chas and you have, again here, trying to do that in first position is harder than it looks. So I would honestly do that part in third position. Technique in violin is always a compromise. You can make one thing easier while simultaneously making another thing harder. So in this case, playing higher in position makes it harder to play in tune, of course, but you save yourself a lot of grief with the string crossings. You're on 1 string instead of dancing between 3 or 2. So I would go 4, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, and then 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. You can even stay there when you get to the tremolos in the next part. Or, doesn't matter to me. Now, it does get a little bit trickier right below rehearsal C, when you have this. We'll get to that in a sec. All right, let's try right from there. This is measure 131, and we're gonna do it much slower. Let's see what 64 sounds like there. So, ya da 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 da, ya da da dee da 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 dee da 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 da. Even at this tempo, this is a little tricky. Maybe I'll slow it down further. Now it's at 58. Ya da 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 dee da dum da da dum. Let's try it like that. So this is measure 131, directly below where you see rehearsal C. Okay, I'll give us 1, 2, 3, and we'll try it. So 1, 2, and a 3, and a. 2 and a. And by the way, the bowing is not an error there. That is indeed how it should be done. Just for the quality of it. When it's faster, it makes more sense. Let's do that again, one more time. So, ya dee da dum da da dum da da yum ba da dum da da da. Just to cover some of that one more time. Same place as before. Measure 131. 1, 2, and a 3, and a. Two and so on like that. Okay, so that's the gist of that. Thankfully, that's actually a good chunk of the difficult material for us. We have a similar idea when we turn the page and go take a look between E and F. Again, we have a lot of the cha-chas and the cha-chas here, while all the other violins are... and so on, just like that. We thankfully just get to go jump, 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 jump. This is the delightful part about playing stuff like this, you know, Strauss and Rossini and that kind of thing. If you're second violin, you can let the firsts worry about all that stupid stuff, and we just get to go dum, 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 da. We have our own difficulties though. Eventually, at measure 68, 267, the main difficulty here is not at all the notes, it's the bowing. The bowing is very strange. So let's do this. We'll do it a little faster than the previous section. I'll set my metronome to 68. The biggest thing to watch out for is the bowing. Let's try that. So again, this is measure 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 6, 7. All right, let's try that. We will go 1, 2, and a 3, and a. And so on like that. Okay, good. Not too much to cover there. Almost everything we do for the next part is something that we've done before, so we can skip ahead a little bit to Measure 4/24. This is exactly the same idea, but it's a third down. So instead of, we now have, this one's actually easier in a sense because you get to use your open strings. So yay, we don't need to rehearse that. Then, when you get to 4/46, you have one of the trickier passages in this piece. The first violins have it up the octave from us. Trying to think of how it is without the music. I can't remember. There it is. Anyways, for us, we have... sorry. And then... Eventually it's considerably faster than even this, but we don't need to worry about that now. For now, let's do it quite under tempo. We'll go da da ya da 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 ti do ta do 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 ti do da do 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 da da. So at this speed it'll be this. Keep in mind, not only are there accidentals all over the place, you're back to 4 sharps. You're in E major. So think high thoughts. All right, let's try right on 4/4/6. I'll give us 1, 2, 3, and then we're in 4/4/6. 1 and 2 and 3, and. Isn't so bad, relatively speaking. Watch out for those D sharps. They will get you. Then you have one last tricky part, and that's the final fanfare on the last 2 lines. So, the first one is just an extended arpeggio. Let's try it anyways, still nice and slow. 4/73. We'll try this together. 1, 2, and 3. Now the next part, it looks really intimidating. It's just an E major scale. And if you shift and do the first note as a 1, it's just simply 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Not so bad. That's my suggestion. Okay, that covers the Rossini, and in my opinion, some of the most sustained difficult stuff in our program so far. After that, let's take a look at Bolero. Bolero was quite simple. There's really not that much to do, and in many places where it looks like there's a ton of activity, it's really not. So, in Bolero, let's jump right to rehearsal 9. This is basically the first thing of substance we have, and it's even easier than you think. So, the idea is it's pizzicato, which again looks weird given the circumstances, but there's slurs across the notes. What this means is you basically strum the fingers across. Now this can be a little bit tricky when played like this, so a lot of times the convention is to hold the violin like a guitar and play it comes up. And so that's what it is. The piece is chum, cha-cha-cha-chum, cha-cha-cha-chum, chum, chum, cha-cha-cha-chum, cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-chum. So what we would do at rehearsal 9 is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So that's what what I recommend. The fingering is quite simple too because it doesn't change. Open G, 3, 2, 2. And the precision on the triplet, try and do the best you can with it. It's not so important. What is important is beat 1, beat 2, beat 3. For those of you who are not so familiar with the concept of bolero, it's written by Ravel, and Ravel was known as, a French impressionistic composer, very experimental, and he wrote some truly beautiful stuff, including some really nice violin material, which guys like Debussy didn't always write, like as the contemporaries. Anyways, so he wrote it as kind of a weird experimental one-off thing. He, if I remember correctly, he described it basically as pure orchestration with no musical substance. So in other words, just notes that instruments play with no sort of overarching plan. Now, the sort of motif that people have come up with is the idea of a French tavern in the countryside, and there's 2 dancers. And each of those 2 dancers is represented by a certain theme. The first is sort of considered like a beautiful, demure French maiden type thing, and she's dancing, and this is her theme. That's the theme. That's sort of the primary thing. You'll hear it repeated a billion trillion times, so you won't forget it. Then there's a second theme, a second dancer. And the second dancer is supposed to be like a more oafish, kind of lecherous French man who is, the type that appears at a bar that doesn't take no for an answer. He's kind of gross and overbearing. And this is his theme. So you can hear it's a bit darker, and that sort of da da dum da 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 di. You can just imagine a guy just sort of constantly trying to hit on someone and just can't take the hint. Anyways, for what it's worth, Ravel, as far as I know, didn't come up with any of that. He didn't sort of write it on any program notes, nothing. He basically, to him, the piece was inspired by the machines on the assembly line in his father's factory. And you can hear that in sort of the snare drum play through the whole piece. Chum, cha 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 chum, cha 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 chum, cha chum, cha 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 chum, cha 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 cha. This mechanical precision. According to him, in his personal memoirs, he was mostly influenced by that. Where the French countryside bar stuff came from, I don't know. But as far as I know, it wasn't him, or at least not his sort of first idea. Anyways, there's not much that needs rehearsing in this in the traditional sense, so what I want to do is skip ahead to rehearsal 11, not to rehearse, but to make an adjustment. If you're not using the parts that I've photocopied, these slurs, these triplet slurs, do not exist. Just play it up bow to start, and then as it comes. Just that over and over again. This is supposed to be some sort of ricochet boy. Good luck getting everyone to do that in time, so we're just gonna ditch it. I don't like it. So the main thing to rehearse, of course, is measure 13, or rehearsal 13, the third measure of. This is when you have the main theme. Now, interestingly, he does it in this weird sort of running triad type thing. So it's for the top line, for the second, and then for the others, and then This makes it very strange in some places. Very, very interesting writing. Again, Ravel was a neat cookie, but for what it was worth too, he wrote this again as sort of a an experimentation of sorts. He did not expect it to be popular, and he was totally surprised when it ended up being one of his most popular things. He kind of resented it in a way too, because it wasn't really something he poured his heart and soul into, but the crowd ate it up anyways. Anyways, let's try starting from the third measure of 13. And I'll have the metronome going at top speed for this one because it's not fast to begin with, and it's very important that we lock in that tempo. Dum da 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 dum da 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 dum 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 da 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 dum da 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 do do dum. I have that at about 66, give or take. It's John's prerogative to change that, but that's pretty realistic. All right, I'll give 1, 2, 3, and then we're in. So third measure of 13, 1, 2, E, and a 3, go. 3, 1. 1, 2, 3. The divisi we're going to figure out in rehearsal because we need John's input on that one. But for right now, if you feel uncomfortable playing the top line, play the second line. It's the same thing, but down an octave. Okay, for the purposes of our rehearsal, let's move on. We're going to skip the first iteration of the Grossman theme. We'll go to, which is the scientific term for it. We're going to start from the third measure of rehearsal 15. This is where the complete version of this is, where we play. We don't actually do that in 14. So in 15, we'll start on the third measure, same idea. So, 1, 2, E, and a 3, go. 2, 3. 1, 2. 1. Be careful of the weird way the rhythm works out. Da, ba da da, ba da da da, ba da da dee da da dum. This is actually something that's harder to do in person than it is to do it in rehearsal. In rehearsal, you have the benefit of the other instruments giving you context. Here, I recommend you do it with the metronome. Now, 16. If you do the top line, or rather if you do any of the lines, you have to play all 4 of those notes. But it's easier than you would think. What you do is this. You place your fingers down. In our case, it's G, E, C, G, or 0, 1, 2, 2. This changes, by the way. It changes from 0, 1, 2, 2 to 0, 0, 1, 2 in certain places, so just watch carefully. But anyways, it's easier than you think. You put the fingers down. While holding the violin up, you just sort of strum the violin like that. Again, clarity is not really the thing here. It's a percussive effect. But this kind of thing you see sometimes. It's a rare technique, but you see it in more Russian music, but that's what it is. It's basically it. It's a weird technique, I know. This goes on until you get to 17. You're going to hear this rhythm so much that you will wish you'd never hear it again, so it's not worth rehearsing. Everything is pretty much okay. until we get to just the last figure at the end. 1. So let's just try that slowly. Bum. Ya da 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 dum, like that. So let's just give it a try slowly. 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3. Let's try that again one more time. 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and 3. There you go. Okay, that's the Ravel out of the way. It's not that challenging in general. It's more, again, the orchestration, the effect of it. Now, something that is challenging is, of course, Pictures at an Exhibition by Mussorgsky, or just Pictures for short. And again, we described this a little bit in the previous rehearsal, but for those who want their memory refreshed, the idea is it is programmatic music. It is meant to elicit a scene or a situation. Think Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony, number 6. It's supposed to be about farmland, country, that kind of stuff. It's supposed to make you think of these things. This is a bit more elaborate than this. It is basically the musical story of a man, and he's in a gallery, and he walks from one place to the next looking at all the pictures. The pictures and the mood that they elicit are reflected in the music, and then he carries the mood from what he's seen as he walks to the next picture. This becomes more apparent as we play it through, and you will see. But the main thing begins with the promenade. Dum bum bum ba da da dee da da dee da da da. Then the lower brass pick it up, and so on like that. So the idea here is one of forward momentum. It is the man walking. He's checking out the gallery. We're introducing to the audience this concept. So we don't have a lot to play, but what we do, we need to make sure it's fairly march-like again. And so on like that. It doesn't have to be as aggressively militant as the Rossini, but it just has to move. So let's try some of this together. I'm going to set my metronome just simply to 1/4 because the beat changes fairly often. Changes from 5/4 to 6/4, so it'll just confuse your metronome. Da dee do 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 dee do dum. I've set mine to 88 for the time being. So I'll give 4, 5, 6, and then let's try right from rehearsal 2. All right, rehearsal 2. 4, 5, 6. Dee-dum, ba-da-da, us. Dee-dum, da-da-da. Bum, bum, ba-dum. Dum, dum, da-da. Dum, dum. Bum, bum, ba, ba, da, da. So nothing to it, really. I think I played an A flat in there somewhere where I shouldn't have, but I don't want to do 2 takes of this, so just ignore it. Okay, now the next one, Nomus. I can't actually remember what the portrait is here, but the idea is you gotta watch the conductor carefully. I highly recommend actually listening to recordings of this so you know what to expect. It starts with the cellos going ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-dum, ba-da-ba-da-da-dum, and then ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and that's it. Bum bum. That's our cue there. So that's just, we don't need to rehearse it, and there kind of is no way, but just be aware of that. Be aware of what you expect there. You do the same thing again at rehearsal 7. And then you get into 8, and the conducting is usually done in 1. Yum bum, bum bum, bum bum, bum bum. Yampa. What this means for us is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. That's what that means for us. Keep in mind too, you're in 6 flats. Thanks, Mazurski. There's something that requires explanation, and that's on the next page, the top of the next page before rehearsal 10 there. That glissando. All it is this. Just that. You just slide up to the harmonic and back down. And it's very quiet, sol tasto. It's an effect type thing. So that's all that is. Simple. Then we have the theme, such as it is, at measure 13. Now, if you don't have, again, the updated parts with the fingerings, here's what I do. 2, 1, 0, 2, 1, 0, 3. This is nice because you can do precisely the same thing in the figure right after that. 2, 1, 0, 2, 1, 0, 3. And eventually, and like that. Pizzicato afterwards, yum bum, bum 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 bum, and so on. Nothing that we need to do, but there is a tricky figure at the end, at rehearsal 18. Thought you'd get away without doing anything difficult, eh? All right, here's the thing. Just when you get to the third last measure, shift up to third position with a 1. Again, this is marked in the music if you don't already have it. 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, extend, and that's it. So slowly, it's this. I want to try this together. We'll do it nice and slow. Ya da 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 da. This is at 56. Just watch out. 6 flats is nasty to play in, and there's some accidentals in there. So let's try it slowly. Ba, 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 ba. I'll give 1 and 2 and 3, and then we're in. Here we go. 18. 1 and 2 and 3. There you go. You're actually in unison with the firsts here. Nothing much to do for the next ones. Il Vecchio Castello. Again, I don't remember what this one is, but it's a great solo for the saxophone. Saxophone doesn't often play in an orchestral context, but he has a big, big part right here. Again, nothing really worth rehearsing there. Same thing with the next promenade. It's just sort of a more thoughtful one. He's kind of going... Nothing too different. Then we get to Tuileries, I guess, maybe. This one is, again, more of a wind solo. There's not much for us to do here. The oboes and the clarinets are going dee-dum, da-dum, dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dee-dum, ba-dum, dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-dum, dee-dum, bum, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. We don't do too much. But what is worth explaining is when you get to 55. 55, there's a totally different tempo here. It's much slower. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and a 3. The first violins have the theme here. What you have is a unison note that you do with exactly the same rhythm. So... that's all that it is. Ta, ta, ti, ta, 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 dum. It looks really elaborate. It's just kind of the way that it's written, but that's all it is. It's just F and G sharp. That's it. Then it picks up at around 36, give or take. Dee dum dum ba da 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 dum. Again, nothing really to look at. The figure at 37 can be a little tricky. And it's in unison with the firsts, who are up the octave there. So, let's just do it slowly for tuning. Again, if you're using an unmarked part, I go 4, 3, 2, keep the 2 down. This is critical. 3 beside it, higher 3, 2 from before, 3. So, this is a big time saver and it helps guarantee the intonation here. Let's try it once slowly like that. Da, 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 dee, da, 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 2, 3, and 4. There you go. The next one, beadlow. In rehearsal, I think I said it was a cart being pulled by a donkey. I was wrong. It's actually a cart being pulled by an ox. Makes a big difference. Anyways, the idea is, of a rundown cart pulled by a rundown beast of burden, guided by a rundown man. So it's very tom bom ba bom dee da 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 dee da, and so on like that. Anyways, at 39 is where we come in with the alternate theme. Just think broad, heavy strokes like that. And yes, be careful of the key signature. 5 sharps. Let's try that one time just at that speed. Ba, do, dee, do, 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 do. It almost kind of sounds like the Dies Irae theme. But that's okay. Anyways, let's try. Dum, 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 39. And here we go. Firsts come in, they have the same thing as you. Actually, you know what, it's worth rehearsing that again one more time. Actually, just on my end, I just have to make a quick adjustment. Beep, 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 beep. There we go. Okay, 39. Let's try that again, and this time I won't cut us off. 3 and 39. And so on like that. And there you go. Nothing out of the ordinary. It's just knowing what we have to do there. And then our little intrepid man there is deeply moved by this cart and ox that he saw. Anyways, the promenade suddenly gets minor. And then we pick up the theme eventually after 47. Sorry, my mistake. No. Oh yeah, sorry. Correct. Okay, so here I just noticed that that's not exactly clear. That third note there, A, B flat, E natural, kind of looks like an F. I had to do a double take there just now. So just make sure it is A, B flat, F. So that blup, 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 blup is the introduction into the next one, the Ballet of the Unhatched Chicks. This portrait is based on, I think it's just like concept art from a staging tech or something like that. But basically it is a child wearing an egg costume, and the costume is sort of like him wearing a shell with his arms and legs sticking out, and then the top of the shell is his helmet like that, and they're also dressed like chickens. So anyways, the idea here is actually a really interesting one. It's just a bunch of little kids running around, going crazy, getting ready for their equivalent of a little ballet show. And it's even neat because before, right at rehearsal 49, and somewhere after 51, there's this big shrill note. I think it's like a D flat or something, but they go do da do da 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 ba. What that is it's supposed to symbolize the coach or the adult in the room telling them, cut it out, guys, everyone line up. Except they repeat, and the kids all just go crazy again. Listen up! No, I'm not doing it justice. If you listen to the recording and know what to expect with it, it's really cleverly done. Anyways, it's just fast pizzicato. That's it. That's it. Nothing again that we need to rehearse. At 53, the way that it's written looks kind of confusing. It's just the idea that the outside player plays the top notes, so the ones where the stem points up, and then the inside player plays all 3 notes with the stems pointing down. So it's just 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's all that it is. Again, it's very, very percussive stuff. At 54, same idea. Now, when you get to 55, you gotta shift fast and just do a 4 there. Shift up into 5th position, and just 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1. That's it. It's nothing like that. Anyways, we move on. Samuel Goldenberg und Schmoel, and this is a portrait of like 2 shadowy figures in an alleyway making some kind of deal. I don't know. Some of it hasn't aged well, but that's okay. Anyways, it's very stylistic in a Yiddish kind of way. It goes. Nothing else that's difficult, but on the last line, it's worth pointing this out. So we have an even slower tempo. We go 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a shot. 4 and then 1, 2, 3, 4 again. And then the orchestra, da-da-da-da. And then that's it. Again, this is best served just by listening to recordings of this stuff. Now, Limoges. This is a market, a busy market, and the idea is that, you know, the tumult and the chaos of people buying things and the stall keepers sort of yelling their wares at people and that kind of thing. Again, it's one of those things where when you listen to recordings of it and you have that in your mind, you go, oh, yeah, Mussorgsky knew what he was talking about or writing about. Anyways, we don't have too much to do, even though it looks pretty crazy. There are parts we're going to isolate in a second, but it's fast. 1, da, da, 2, and a 3, and a 4. Da, 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 da. In fact, I don't know why I'm singing it. I should just play it. Sorry. And so on and so on. Don't worry, we're going to rehearse some of this. So for now, let's just do it very, very slowly. I'll set my metronome here. Da 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 da. For this one, again, there's updated bowings here. Some of the bowings that are in there are not correct, so if you don't have the updated part, find it, because the bowing that I suggested makes it easier. Anyways, let's play some of this. So, second measure of the movement. Ya ba 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 ba. 1, 2, 3, and a 4, go. part is sort of a repeat of what we've already done. My fingering there in the measure before 65 is fairly simple. 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Don't let the G sharp fool you. That's inharmonically equivalent to an F sharp. So 1, 2, 1, 2. It's just this sort of weird, like sort of a whole tone type scale. Very strange. Anyways, then we get to just before 66. And then hits, hits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Keep in mind you also have a key change here, buried at 66. All of your flats are gone, so it's just naturals. Anyways, so let's just take a quick look at, pick up to the third measure of 66. That's where you go pluck, pluck. I think I might have to redo some of those bowings there because that one's a little bit awkward, but we'll deal with that in rehearsal. All right, so let's try together. Dun, ya, da, 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 dun. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 4, 2, 3, 4. So just in case it's not clear there, this is kind of tricky because you have to watch out very carefully for when you have pizzicato and when you have arco. So it's arco, pizzicato, pizzicato, 2, 3. Now arco, but then pizzicato. And then even trickier here, 1, 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1. Now here, just smear the fingers down. As long as you get to 69 on time, then it's okay. So let me play from 67 slowly just to illustrate this. Again, we're in 3/4 here, so I'm just going to turn it to 1/4 because it changes later. This is demonstrating 67. Ah, no, I did that wrong. Sorry, got to do that again. So 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 3, 1. 3. 3. I think of like an inflatable thing just collapsing in on itself. So let's do now 67, directly on 67, just that tempo, but we'll do exactly what I just did together. All right, let's try. Yum, ba, 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 ya, da, da. I'll give us 1, 2, 3, then we're in. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. 3, 1. 3, 1. 3. 3, 1, 2, 3. Almost everything after this is repeats until you get to the last part. Now, ideally, eventually this whole piece is quite a bit faster. And so on like that. Again, we don't have to care about that right now, but 71 eventually is even faster. Anyways, let's do it slowly for right now, and let's cut out the tremolo. So dum ba 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 ya ta ta ta. So in other words, instead of, we'll just go. Sorry. Then once we have that, we'll add the tremolo back in. So let's try that. 71. Dum 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 da da ya do 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 do. 71. 1, 2, no tremolos, go. This is actually a really good way to get familiar with areas that otherwise look really intimidating merely because they have a crap ton of tremolo stuff. So that's going to be helpful. Anyways, let's try that one more time though, but with the tremolo. So. 2, 3, and a 4, go. All right, now for what it's worth, the next one, Catacombs, is entirely tacit. We don't have to play anything there. It's probably my favorite movement, almost, in this one. It's really, really neat and well written, but we don't do anything. Then we have Cum mortuis in lingua mortus, which is Latin for, if I remember correctly, with the dead speaking in a dead language. But eerie. Anyways, he's deeply, profoundly moved now. And we just have this little tremolo effect. Again, nothing really worth doing in rehearsal. Now, the next one, La cabane sur les pattes de poule. You'll have to forgive my pronunciation. Anyways, the idea is it is about the Slavic legend of Baba Yaga, who is sort of the equivalent of the European witch, except instead of riding around on a broomstick, she rides in a bucket, and she lives in a cabin that is suspended on chicken's feet that runs around. So this is supposed to illustrate that. Now, my suggestion for fingering here is kind of slapdash, but it really works. Just 0, 3, 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4. 1, 4, 1, 4, 1, 4. Again, it's the effect. It's not so important that it's super clean yet. So again, there's not too much to rehearse in this. Again, it's punctuated with areas of pizzicato, that kind of thing. We don't have anything challenging until just before rehearsal 86. Whoops. And then we'll rehearse this slowly. So my suggestion is when you get to 86, you shift all the way up so you're playing that top note as a 4. And then you can do everything up there without shifting back down until you go back to the first position stuff later. So 4, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1. 2, 2, 4, 2, 1. the rest is not so bad. When you get past that, when you get to the next page, just before 88, that's all it is. That's it. Yep. Then that's all. And then the next note is just a semitone below that. Third position, so 2. Almost everything else is a repeat of that until you get to 91. Before that, actually, the tempo really changes. It goes from 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 to 1 2 1 2 bum boom yup up boom. When we get to 91, those harmonics are just D, A, just that. Actually, sorry, no, I'm playing that wrong, sorry. You stay in first position, 4, 4. There it is. Okay, so normally you're 4, but gentle, 4, 4. Sorry about that. I forgot what I was doing. Anyways, almost everything else is a repeat of that we've already done until we get to the end, the last 2 lines. And then you're done. Let's rehearse it. Let's go. Da da dee 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 da da da. Fingering is printed out in the part, but if you don't have it, the last line, shift to 1, shift to 1, and stay here. 2, 3, low 4. 1, 2, 3, low 4. And then just first position, chromatic stuff. And then you end on a G. All right, let's do this slowly. Dee 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 da da. Get the metronome out, because why not? Metronome is always a good thing. Dee 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 da da da. This is 84, by the way. So right on the fortissimo, on the second last line of the movement. 2, 3, and 4. And then that's it, except for the Great Gate of Kiev. Again, this is more a brassy thing and some first violin stuff. We don't have too much. We have the one part at 107. Basically just scales. Just shift up really high and do a 4 on the second measure of 107. But it should go like this. Up to an F. 4, 3, 2, 1, 4. The other instruments carry on. You come in 2 bars later. Sorry. And then you have the main theme. And so on and so on. There's one last thing. Just before measure 109, you've got this big G minor chord, and then those notes are very important to play. If you play nothing else in this movement, play those 4 or 8 notes, and then stop. It's a very neat effect. Almost all the strings are doing the same thing there. Everything else is not so bad, except when you get to 114. We're not doing that. So the part where it says ottava, don't play it as an octave. Play it just as it's written, as if it doesn't say play it up the octave. It's still hard enough, so I mean, why? Why Mussorgsky? But we can't ask him, he's dead. So for now, let's just rehearse 1, 1, 4, and slowly 4 notes per bow. So just like this. Like that. 3 E and 114. And then there you go. After that, again, nothing too hard. You sort of go into this quasi-3 type thing where the chord tempo is sort of the same as before, but it's in 3/4. It's nothing to rehearse here. We just have to do it with the rest of the band. Anyways, so that concludes everything that I would like to work on. And to me, this represents 95% of the bulk of the concert. Everything that's really difficult is what we just did. This isn't the only time we're going to review this. Ideally, we'll have more sectionals where I can help you in person, but hopefully this serves to bridge the gap between now and the next time where I can help in a more in-person function. If there's anything that anyone has any questions about, feel free to always reach out. But otherwise, like I said, you should soon, if not already, have the updated bowings for all of this, which will help. Otherwise, I wish all of you the best of, what day is today? Friday at the time of this filming. I was a bit late on it. But otherwise, have a great weekend, and I hope to see you all on Tuesday. Thank you so much, Seconds. Take care.